Hi, and welcome to my channel. Today we're talking about A Fate Inked in Blood, probably the best Viking mythology book I have ever read, and it came so close to a perfect score, but then fumbled at the end. Let's talk about it. So for those who have not read this book yet, I am not going to spoil anything for you. If you want a spoiler-free review, please skip to the end in the chapters and I will give you a review that was 100% spoil-free and you can know whether or not it's a good book to read. I'll also give you the skipped pages so you don't have to worry about anything coming out of the blue and surprising you as you read. So if you haven't read the book yet, skip to the end for a spoiler-free review. If you have read the book or you don't mind having some things spoiled, come along with me while I vlogged my experience, and let me tell you, it was a freaking doozy. Two pages into the book, and I legitimately hate her husband. This author has done such a good job of taking a simple scene of cleaning fish after a catch to make you absolutely hate this guy. Like, he's horrible. Holy crap. Like, where's Elaine? So she and he do the cleaning exactly the same. And she says, I know how to gut a fish. I say between my teeth, every part of me desiring to gut him. I've gutted thousands of fish. I don't like the way you do it. His lip curled. The way you do it is wrong. People complain. Like, oh my gosh. And like, look at these chapter headings. Like, look how beautiful those are. Like, oh my gosh. I'm so glad I bought this book and didn't wait. So she has a chance now to get out of this marriage. And of course, while she's on the banks of the river, you know, gutting the fish because her husband's a douche bucket, this warrior comes out of the river and he's rippling muscles and very sexy, and he's flirting with her, joking that he's going to go find her husband and kill him so that she can feel free to, give in to his temptation. Anyways, she's given this chance to get out of her marriage by beating a man in combat, and then she'll join the raids and go off raiding during spring. The man that she is going to be fighting is the Jarl's son, which is basically the king's son. And it's the warrior that was in the river. And so, of course, now she's having to do this and figure this out. But now we also know that she has a drop of God's blood in her as well, and we're about to see that come out. I'm very excited to see what happens, but like, really? And the banter is like wonderful. Like, oh my gosh, it's so good. Damn straight. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. End of chapter 2. And we're on to chapter 3, and I am completely in love. Completely head over heels in love with Freya, the main character. I'm not going to give spoilers because I realized that maybe I should not do spoilers. But oh my gosh, I love her so much. I love her so much. Okay, no, I'm going to do spoilers because, like, oh my gosh. So she just beat in the battle Bjorn, who is the son of the Jarl. and she completely gave up her secret that she is a God-touched woman and a child. Like, she's a child, God-touched child, I think is the way they say it. Anyway, she's a shield maiden, and she's like magic abilities to protect herself and whatnot, and she is part of a prophecy for the Jarl. Anyway, but her piece of crap husband, who kind of set this whole thing up for her to be a fight to the death with Bjorn, to prove that she was the daughter of a god and that he wanted a divorce, kind of thing. She gets pissed off after all the arrangements are made. She's now going to be the queen, the second wife of the Jarl. And once she's agreed to that, her old husband, who is now divorced, he starts making quibs at her brother about the woman that her brother loves. And she's like, I'm having freaking none of that. And she grabs, I think it's a battle axe? Sword. No, a battle axe. She grabs a battle axe from Bjorn, the man that she just fought, and she throws it at her husband, her ex-husband at this point, and it just right into the back of his head. And he's gone. And it's so satisfying. I am going on a date with my husband, so I'm going to have to wait. We are going to see Dune Part 2. So it's going to be a minute, but oh my gosh, I love this book. I'll probably end up finishing it tomorrow because I'm kind of obsessed. Now that I'm home from church, the children are settled, I finally have a chance to sit and read myself. So I am going to turn on my audio, my music, because you can't, read without music. I don't know, that might just be me, but I can't read without music. And since I saw Dune last night, we're going to do some Dune music. And you know what? I should listen to Viking music. Oh, Valhalla Calling is a really good song too. Let's just start with this one because it's a good song and I like it. Oh my god. They just straight up gave her opioids because she burned her hand. And so she's getting high. So she breathed it in the fumes or the smoke. And she's immediately like, it's unnatural for someone to have such a beautiful face. Oh, my girl is high. Okay, moving on. Just a little. I think your bit of smoke has done its duty. Live. Thus get on with things. Oh yeah, nope, I feel that too. When I've taken pain medication, I'm really tired as well, and she just fell asleep. Oh, babe. Babe. Do not say those things to the man that literally just about had you killed. Oh my gosh, this is so me. I was always saying the first things that came to my mind, despite having suffered consequences for doing so time and again. This is my life, my whole life, right there. By the way, I don't tab. There's a part of me that's afraid to like permanently deface is a good word, I guess. Books, fiction, when I buy it, even though I own it and I know I own it, it's like there's a part of me that just is like, I get nervous about doing that. So I actually have these tabs that are they're highlighter tabs. And so, so I highlight that way when I like something instead of doing it permanently. Now in nonfiction, 100% annotate, highlight, write in it. I do all of the things. But in fiction, I have these tabs, these highlighters, and then I have these. Well, I mean, they're like normal little tabs too. But I have these, which is completely translucent, clear Post-it notes that I will write stuff on. You can do ballpoint pen and pencil work the best on these, and then I will put it down. I'll write it and then put it on the page. But that way, I'm not actually defacing my books, but I'm being able to highlight the things that I really like. And as a writer, I really enjoy descriptive sections, and then sections that I identify with really intensely, I like to highlight those as well. So, she cannot catch a friggin' break, man. She's forced into one marriage, and then after a year of being married to this a-hole, she kills him, which he deserved, and now she's being forced into another marriage the day after to the Jarl. Because, I dropped my M&M. Anyway, she's being forced into another marriage with friggin' the Jarl, like, the next day. Like, girl cannot catch a frickin' break. And the guy she actually likes is the Jarl's son, who's about a couple of years older than her. She's only 20. She's only 20. Benefits of having a mini fridge right next to your reading chair. So there have been a couple of indicators. I'm only 30 pages into the book, but there have been a couple of indicators that this book is going to be spicy. This is, again, an author I've never read. This is Daniel L. Jensen, and there have been a few things that have been indicators that we are going to have, this is going to be a spicy book. This is not going to, I have a feeling once they get into it, there's going to be some skipped pages in this book. Is this a trilogy? Yeah, this is book 1. Ugh. Okay, it's the Saga of the Unfated, so it might not be one book, or a trilogy, but I feel like I'm gonna get invested in the story, and then I'm not gonna be able to read the next one for like years. This is gonna suck. 8. So they have been married, and so the Jarl and the main character, whose name just Freya. There we go. So the Jarl and Freya are married, and then there was this ritual done where she had to be tattooed, but it's like a magical tattoo. So there were these runes, and they called on the powers of the gods, and something went kind of crazy, and it was like her body was being ripped in two. And so she got one tattoo of her magical abilities on her hand, on the back of her left hand, and on the palm of her right hand she got like half of a tattoo. So it looks like there are two gods who are warring over her, because that was supposed to be where the gods accepted her and then gave her a tattoo of her powers. But then they're supposed to, like, they're married, they have to consummate the marriage, and there's this big whole thing happening. The current queen, she's like, or the wife is like, I don't want this, I can't do this, I can't watch you bed another woman, like whatever, which I totally understand, and my heart is breaking for her because she is following the leadership of her husband, and he's saying, well, I have to, marry and consummate because of a prophecy. So I love what they're doing here, though, is that they've created like this loophole. So instead of consummating the marriage for Freya and the Jarl, they're going to do a binding spell that's going to bind her to him. But, and I guarantee, I am going to predict right now, I guarantee this is going to come back and bite them in the butt. But they're doing the spell, and the vows that she is doing is to his blood, not to him specifically. So it's to his blood, which would include anyone in his bloodline, which is Bjorn, who is the hot, sexy man that showed up at the very beginning in chapter 1. So I predict that this is going to be a loophole that they're going to have to close at some point because she is promising her loyalty and allegiance to his blood and not to him. So an example, I vow allegiance to him who is of this blood. I vow to protect at all cost him who is of this blood. I vow to speak no word of this bargain except to him who is of this blood. Him, male, of this blood being this blood running through his veins, but also that same blood is running through his son's veins, Bjorn. So that's my prediction. We'll find out by the end of the book if I am correct.
Okay, do you see this? It's like the golden cup goes bouncing down the steps. Clank, 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 clank. The sound of the metal going down the stairs. The mountain had awakened. This is what I wrote. Mary and Moria 100%.
He didn't die. That's good. Okay, I have to go to bed. But I wanted to, it's like 12:30. Oh my gosh. I wanted to do a quick update before I go to bed. So, I'm on page 276 now, and let me tell you kind of what has happened. So, they have gone to the the rites. There's like this big festival where all of the Norse individuals gather and pay tribute to the gods, and it's always been a really big deal, but Freya has never been allowed to go. So this is her first time going because the Snorri, who is the Jarl, her husband, is saying, like, we need to go and you need to go give tribute. So while they're on the way there, she sees a ghost, kind of like this spectral figure, kind of like the Grim Reaper. And she's the only one that can see it. And she goes and talks to him and says, if you don't give sacrifice by this time, your life is forfeit, essentially. So she goes ahead with Bjorn, who is now her like guard and keeper, essentially. And she's having feelings and he's having feelings, but they're kind of ignoring it right now. So they go to the foot of the mountain where they get attacked. So it's like all of the warriors and the Jarl and the wife and Freya and Bjorn. So like everybody's going. And they've left the town completely unguarded, which is going to turn around and bite them in the butt. But as of this moment, they get attacked on the road to the ritual site, which is like a protected area by the gods. And Snorri decides to, and I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's the way it's spelled. So there you go. He decides that Bjorn and Freya need to go together up this other like back path that is filled with zombie creatures, and nobody ever goes in it because it's filled with these zombie creatures. And he's like, this is a test of your bravery, of your skill, of your power. And she's just kind of like, WTF. And Bjorn's like, WTF, we're all gonna die, are you kidding me? But they go because they have to go, because Snorri is the Jarl and they've got to go. So they go up into this back pathway, and sure enough, the zombies all show up and it's a whole big deal, and they end up fighting like 2 different times. And Bjorn comes up with this great idea to challenge the undead Jarl, and if he wins, then they can all go past they can go past without having a problem. And so they get into this big fight, and Bjorn is like losing, but Freya figures out that she can use her ability, which is like she calls this god shield, that she can kind of morph it. So it goes over her hand, and she grabs Bjorn's sword, that the flaming sword of Tyr, and slashes down this undead Jarl and kills him. And then the gods decide to take care of all the other undead. And I just feel like, okay, why couldn't they have done that before? If she's supposed to be like this big god, fated individual, why could they not have done that to begin with? Why did they have to go through this whole process of fighting a couple of, whatever, it's fine. So they get up to the very top, and they get to the ritual. Once they go into the ritual, there's more scuffles and fights and stuff like that outside of the god protected space. But then they go into the god protected space, they do the ritual, some crazy stuff happens, all of the gods show up and accept Freya's sacrifice, and then they have this kind of festival party thing. It's pretty hedonistic. There's definitely some spice in there that I will be putting skip pages in for all of those who don't really wish to consume the spice. The spice is not for everyone, and this is pretty intense, just in the voyeuristic nature of it. It's intense. But they come back down, and they find that they finish the ritual and all that stuff. They come back down from the mountain, and they find that their town, their home, has been burned to the ground, and they know who's done it. So the Jarl Snorri decides, okay, we're going to go after who did this. And during the festival thing that happened, oh my gosh, my arm's getting tired. But during the festival thing that happened, Bjorn and Freya ended up getting really hot and heavy. And it was done in such a way that they were like trying to hide, and because of the hedonistic nature of this festival, like they were hiding in plain sight by like totally getting it on in public. And they didn't go all the way, but there was definitely touching and whatnot. And now she's avoiding him because she knows that she can't, and that they can't be together. And it's like killing her, because she's falling in love with him, because he's a really great guy, and he's very charismatic and very charming. And he's also falling in love with her. And that tension is building. And oh my gosh, the tension. Danielle Jensen can write tension like no author I think I have ever read before. Like, it's so good. Anyway, so they have this like confrontation in the middle of the forest, and he's like, why are you avoiding me? And she's like, I can't tell him this. But he badgers her and badgers her and badgers her until she tells him. And this is like, oh, it's so heartbreaking. Let me just read the little bit. Here it is. Okay. She says, stay away from me, Bjorn, I whisper. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. Don't touch me. Because you now belong to the ranks of people whose lives depend on my good behavior. And if I fall to temptation, it will be the doom of us all. She's got the weight of the world on her shoulders, this girl. She's got the weight of the world on her shoulders, and my heart just like, it just hurts for her and her situation, and that she feels like she can never mess up. Because if she does, the Jarl will kill her family or something, along those lines, because he's holding her family over her head. So anyway, so that's where we are ending for the night on page 276, and I will probably finish the book tomorrow. This book's taken me a little bit longer to read just because I've had a lot of life that I've had to do. But yeah, for the love, such a good book. Such a good book. No. Are you freaking kidding me right now? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. So, what? I don't. Bjorn betraying Freya makes sense, but like it's also super cliched, but it makes sense. I just wish there had been more. So, spoiler free review. This book very easily is the best Viking novel I have ever read. I have never read a book that so deeply and so quickly got me involved in the character's life as this one did. From the very first paragraph, I felt completely involved in her life. I wanted to know exactly what was going on. Why did she hate her husband? Who was this mysterious man coming out of the river near her? In the first chapter, you get so much information that just hooks you in and pulls. And honestly, that doesn't really stop for the rest of the book. Now, I didn't read this book as fast as I read Bride by Ali Hazelwood, but I think that it's probably because there was so much for me to chew on and I wanted to think about what was going on in the book. So I took my time. Now, there's a couple of themes in this book that I think are very, very interesting. The idea of fate and being fated, and how do you control your own fate versus having it controlled by someone else? And what does it mean to take your fate into your own hands? The main character struggles with this for basically the entire book, and the author does a really, really good job of putting different things in her path that make it very obvious that she could take another choice and that she's being influenced by the people around her. And sometimes she can tell and sometimes she can't, but you as the reader can totally tell she's being influenced by different people, but the actual character can't. So you're reading the book and you're like, stop doing what you're doing, or oh my gosh, make a different choice. But the idea and the themes are all still there. And by the end of the book, she comes to a realization of kind of more of what it means to be her own person. So the story essentially is that she is the main character. She is God touched. She has a special ability, and there is a prophecy written about her that she will be the kingmaker, that anyone who controls her fate will become the king of the Skalands and will rise to power. So she's been kind of kept in hiding her whole life because of this, and her family has kept her from revealing her powers because all of the God touched children have powers. Her whole life, but somehow it gets out, and then the king who heard the prophecy and thought it was about him comes to collect her, and it's her story and saga about how to decide who is controlling her fate. Is she controlling her own fate? And there's a lot of different characters that come into play, some enemies, some possible lovers, some different entities that are beyond her control, that are like gods and stuff, that are also kind of in the mix of this story. It is a very, very, very good book. It was a very good read. I don't think that it was like literature level writing. It was not, however, I can tell you, it was not ACOTAR level. It was above ACOTAR. Their prose are very good. The writer is very clever. The banter between the two, the male lead and the female lead, are absolutely incredible. So I would highly, highly, highly suggest this. Now, this book gets a 4 out of 5 stars from me, and it loses the 5th star because of what happens at the end. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I was really mad and I yelled at the book when it happened. So go get it. You can get the link for the book is in the description of this video. So if you would like to get that, go ahead and jump down there and grab it. A Fate Inked in Blood. Now, for the spoilery review. This book was so close to perfect that I am very frustrated. with the author. And I've given myself about 24 hours since finishing the book to really want to talk about it, because this was so frustrating because it was so good. And then we end the book on the most cliched thing that I feel like she could have done with the relationship between Bjorn and Freya. So Freya has gone through all of these things. She's gone to nope, thoughts are not thoughting. I don't remember the name of the city, but she gets married to Snorri, and she goes to the town, and she is with Bjorn, and Bjorn is like tied to her because of his crazy father, and she starts falling in love with Bjorn, and she starts learning her powers and learning how to manipulate her powers better, and she's going on this hero's journey of discovering herself, discovering her abilities and her power. She goes to the big meeting to give tribute to the gods, and the gods all show up and they talk to her. I mean, it's a huge, momentous moment, and then nothing happens with it. It's very, very frustrating. The gods all show up and they speak directly to the crowd. They speak directly to her, like, we see you, daughter of two gods, of two bloods. I think it was two bloods. And she's thinking, oh yeah, well, I'm a mortal and a god. And I feel like that was where some of it started to go off the rails for me, is I felt like she was treating the main character a little bit stupid. Where obviously she has two different abilities. She has two different tattoos. She gets a tattoo on one hand and she gets a tattoo on the other hand. Obviously, there is something else going on here. She's almost ripped apart in the tattoo ceremony because two gods are fighting over her. So, I mean, it's like, it felt like that was kind of stupid. And then the choices that she makes afterwards are just like, really? I just felt like she kept making bad choices left and right and left and right. But they made sense, but they still were just like super juvenile. And maybe it's because she's 20 years old, so she's going to make stupid choices anyway. It's the first time she's really been up from home, been in like these really big, important things, and she's not handling it well, I guess you could say. One thing that I do like with the author is that the author did not have the male have Bjorn and Freya, hook up instantly. It wasn't about love. She actually talked about how they couldn't be together, and there were reasons why they couldn't be together, and they made a lot of sense. And Freya actually says, like, I am not an animal. You are not an animal. Stop it. You can control this. And she does control it until the very end, where they make the decision, like, we're going to run away together and we're going to be together. And so that's when they finally consummate their relationship. And I really liked the fact that they kind of held off. I mean, there were definitely moments where it was like, excuse me, guys, you're in the middle of the town making out against a wall. Could we not? Anyway, so this is what really tripped it for me at the very end. This is what lost the final star for me, because I'm rating this 4 out of 5 stars. The 5th star was lost when Bjorn was the one who betrayed her. When Bjorn was the one who was supposed to bring her to the Nordlands and was supposed to give her to his father, I lost. I'm reading it and actively being like, no, this is so stupid. Are you freaking kidding me? Because it's so cliched. It's so cliched with the relationship of like, oh, we're together and we're in love and we're going to go off together. And then suddenly it's that he betrays her, and he was supposed to hand her over to the Nordlanders, but he loved her too much and he was going to run away with her. And it just, the whole scenario where it was even built up that he was supposed to take her to the Nordlands, it felt so cliched, and I feel, for me personally, it dropped the ball on what was a 5 out of 5 story in the last 2 chapters. In the last 2 chapters, suddenly we get this idea that Bjorn's been shifty this whole time, and we've never seen that, but suddenly he's being all shifty. and she's questioning him, and then the king of the Nordlands comes up and is like, oh, thank you for getting her for me, and that wasn't part of the plan to do this, but I guess it worked. Like, it just felt so out of nowhere. There was no hints dropped, and maybe it was because I didn't pick them up. It's very possible. But for me, there were no hints dropped. There was nothing there that said that this made sense. I was very, very frustrated. But overall, however, this book was incredible. This book really was absolutely incredible. 4 out of 5 stars. So freaking glad that I bought it. So glad that my teeny little town Walmart had it, so that I could get up at like 7 o'clock in the morning and go buy it. Definitely check this one out if you like Vikings or even Celtic, like warrior tribal kind of stories. This is heavy, heavy, heavy Vikings. You will recognize things if you've seen the TV show Vikings. This is 100% a book that you will love. So you can get a copy of it by clicking the link down in the description box. I'm not set up as a, what's it called? I don't get money for it. I probably will end up signing up myself up for it at some point, but as of right now, I don't get money for it. If you want to click the link below and get the book yourself on Amazon, as far as I know, there are ebooks, hardback. There's no paperback for this book yet, but go check it out if you love it. As always, remember, you are valued, you are loved, and happy reading.